Good evening, everyone. How have you guys been finding the business day, the AI summit? You guys liked it? Yeah? I can't hear you. I'm not going to get people on this stage unless I can hear you. Well, this is the last sequence of the business day, and then we have the party, as you guys all know. And it's going to be really the best in class of AI. So I hope you guys are ready. To kick off the first sequence, I'd like us first to welcome CEO of BPI France, Nicolas Dufour.
Hi, everyone. We are extremely happy to welcome you today with Roxane, with France Digital, with the magnificent team of Station F. BPI France is the bank for entrepreneurs in France. We have financed at this stage approximately 700 IA startups. We are shareholders of most of the beautiful names of the scene. We have committed 10 billion euros in IA in France in the next 5 years. It's a lot of money. It's going to be equity. It's going to be loans. It's going to be a lot of also consulting for SMEs. We want them to embark in AI. Why do we do that? Because for those of you who are saleswomen and salesmen, you know that now if you want to be fast, you need foils on your boats. IA is the foil, and it's the foil of everything. You could call it productivity. I would call it speed. Speed of everything, speed of development, speed of innovation, speed of progress, speed of improvement, speed of enhancement, speed of embetterment of the society. So that's where we are. Of course, it has its little dimension of danger sometimes. So we know that in a couple of years, I would say, Sam, we will welcome Sam just after. Probably one state out of two will have established a bit of an agency to sort of steer the massive developments of what we can do with IA. It's also something which is going to change a lot of sectors. I just give you an example, which is marketing. Marketing, 80% of it will be IA powered. And so people will have to change. And for those of you who are in at Tech, for example, I encourage you to change quite rapidly. We will be with you. So this is my short introduction, just a couple of directions, a lot of money, a lot of means, a lot of optimism around all that, a lot of determination. So you're going to have a couple of roundtables. The first one being with Clara and the excellent Sam, who's on scene, and we are honored of his presence today. You can applaud him. Thank you.
Thank you. That's just
Summarize the just ask me sorry. What bird is this? Actúa como todos los What do you want to create next?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi, Sam. Thanks for being with us in Paris today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I see you're wearing a little red rooster. It's going to make a lot of people from the French tech community really happy, I think. But tell me, tell me, are you a cat or a dog person?
I like both, but I would prefer a dog.
We love cats in France.
I love cats too.
We love cats. So I asked Le Chat to help me with the first question in this interview. Le Chat is Mistral's new model. You know Arthur very well, I think.
Arthur's great.
So I asked him to come up with an interesting, fun question for you. Let's start with that. What film, movie, or personal experience influenced your vision of tech?
The first thing that this is a more recent film, but I so strongly recommend it. Apollo 11 is like one of the most inspirational movies for tech and doing hard engineering projects and discovering science I've ever seen. I super strongly recommend it.
Great. Thanks for the advice. I love this movie too. Okay, so you're talking about Apollo 11 and the future of tech. We're obviously at the moment where everything accelerates so fast when it comes to AI. We hear you talk a lot about AGI. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's your vision, how AI is developing at the moment?
For a long time, I tried to stop using the word AGI because I think it at this point means something different to everybody or several things to the same people, but it's just like so deep in there that I have not been able to stop using it. Um, at this point, I think most people use it to mean like really strong, powerful AI systems. And we're clearly making fast progress. So I think you can argue about different definitions and then different times of when we'll get there. But if you look at what the systems are capable of today versus what they were capable of 2 years ago and project that forward even 2 more years, to say nothing of 4 or 6, this is like really quite something. We launched something called Deep Research. I lost track of time. I think it was like a week ago. And that's like a model that I think is capable of doing like a low single digit percentage of all of the tasks in the economy in the world right now, which is a crazy statement. And a year ago, I don't think something that people thought was going to be coming. So again, if you project that forward, it'll keep moving.
What are the next big milestones that you anticipate?
I am generally excited just to continue to push on the model's reasoning capability, the ability to use that to then go do hard, complex, long horizon agentic tasks. Agents that can write software engineers are one thing that we're particularly excited about. And then longer term AI that can do science, I think will be one of the most important impacts. If we can have an AI system that can write code, that certainly helps the world a lot. But if we have an agent that can go autonomously discover a cure for cancer or get fusion to work or discover new physics, I think scientific progress is what drives the world to such a strong extent that that's a huge deal.
Would you say that the use cases that are exciting for you the most at the moment?
Um, this is like a very general answer, but I realized over the last couple of months that I don't use a lot of services that I used to use. Like I don't do Google searches anymore unless I'm like there may be some very specific thing, but not that much.
They still have a big market share though.
For sure. Um, there's like a lot of other tasks that I used to go somewhere else to do. And the fact that I can use ChatGPT as this sort of like general thing throughout the whole day and just have this like oracular system that can sort of do anything within reason, anything that I kind of need is like we were not there a year ago. And the fact that we are there now, I've really noticed a shift in my own usage.
Completely. And what do you tell? I mean, we have a lot of people working in different businesses here, and obviously everyone talks about AI. When you ask our CEOs in France, like what's their top priority, 8 out of 10 would say implementing AI. But then when you look at like how actually gets implemented, only like 4 CEOs out of 10 have actually done the work and really implemented at scale. What's your advice to everyone trying to get in this race and really get advantage from the technology?
I think there's, I mean, at least two really good directions to go on this. Vice President Vance said a lot of things that I really liked, but one of them, a point that he hit a few times, was just the scale of the economic opportunity. He used the phrase "lightning in a bottle," and I really think it is this moment. I think it was like a great phrase, and it is this moment that I've never seen before. Maybe it was like this at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Maybe it was like this at the beginning of the internet. But the economic impact this can have, to go back to the deep research example, the idea that you have for 50 cents of compute, you can do like 500 or $5,000 of work. Companies that are implementing that to just be way more efficient. I think you'll see this in a big way with the software engineering agent. That's category one. So companies can just run way better. People can do way more with way less. And then the second is building consumer facing or business facing products that use AI in this very fundamental way. And ChatGPT is one example of that. A lot of other companies have done great stuff there. Uh, I think people should be imagining more than they are. I think a lot of people are still thinking about like last year's AI, which was just much more limited. And what you can do now is like really quite remarkable.
And how do you start when you're like looking at all those tools and you don't necessarily know where to go?
Um, so before doing this, I used to be a startup investor. I ran this firm called Y Combinator, and the kind of people would ask versions of this question all the time. What should I build? What should I do with my company? What product should I go? Like, how do I? And I think that's a question you should never take someone else's advice on. Uh, Startups succeed to the idea they do something that like no one has quite figured out before. Maybe no one's thought of before, no one's executed well before. But I always encourage people to trust their own instincts and not take someone else's advice there.
I think it's a great advice. So we're in France. You've opened an office in France like not so long ago. And you've also written an amazing piece in one of our newspapers talking about how France is really great. We're grateful to that. Can you tell us more about like how you're thinking about France and the AI ecosystem here? And I know you've just returned from London. Maybe a comparison between the ecosystems would also be helpful.
Speaking of how I use ChatGPT and working on that piece, it is so good at translation. I think relative to any other thing I've ever used before.
I didn't use ChatGPT to translate, by the way.
You didn't? Okay. Well, if you do, we'll make it better and better. Uh, Look, I've been here to Station F many times, and back in my Y Combinator days, I always used to particularly love coming here. We had a special relationship with France. We funded many, many great French entrepreneurs, and obviously France has got a long history of incredible engineering. Um, I think it's so cool that like there's one country that makes airplanes and trains and nuclear power plants and all of these things that are so core to the vision of the future and does it so well. Um, so I think it's just always special in Paris. London is great too. I had a wonderful time there. But the sort of the engineering talent, the entrepreneurial spirit here, uh, the belief in energy, which I think is going to become super important as we continue on this AI journey. Like France has got a lot of advantages.
What's your plan with the office in Paris?
we'd like to expand it a lot. Again, speaking of French talent, we have many great French researchers at OpenAI. There are many others that live here that we would love to contribute to OpenAI. So I think we'll have a great office here.
Great. So lot to interesting opportunities for people here. Okay, Sam, I can't conclude this interview without asking you this question that you've probably heard all day. Is OpenAI for sale?
No. OpenAI has a mission. We are an unusual organization, and we have this mission of making AGI benefit all of humanity. And we are here to do that. We are not for sale.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Sam, and please come back soon. All right, so you guys got a chance to hear about how AI is accelerating and how OpenAI is not for sale. The next talk is going to be a little bit more of a scientific and research perspective. We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to take a step back and also look at where AI is headed. Maybe we'll also hear a little bit about what Meta has plans. Who knows? So you guys should know by now who I'm talking about. The one and only Yann Lequin.
Okay, I had a hard time getting to here because everybody wanted to take a selfie with me. So I'm going to have a revenge. You guys have to smile. Okay, this was the low-tech version. Here's the high-tech version. Smart glasses. All right. Speaking of smart glasses. Okay. So here's a point that you heard me say many times, which is that open source AI must win. And the reason it must win is that AI, first of all, many of you are startupper. How many of you are building on top of open source software? Okay, that's a lot of people. How many of you are building on top of Llama? Awesome. Wonderful. So you know that open source must win because it is the foundation of an entire industry. And we know from the history of the internet, for example, that ultimately any platform, software platform, needs to be open source. There is a big pressure from the market for it to become open source. And it's because it's more secure, it's more high performance, it's more flexible, it's more portable, it's cheaper to run. We all know the advantages of this, right? But there is a big one also for AI, which is that in the near future, every single one of our interaction with the digital world is going to be mediated by AI systems. And we need a high diversity of AI systems because if we get all of our information through AI systems, we need a diverse population of AI systems. For the same reason, we need a diverse population of journals and newspapers and magazines, right? We also need all those systems to speak every language in the world, to understand every culture, every value system, every center of interest. And no single entity in the world, as big as it is, can train a system to do this. First of all, because nobody has access to all of the cultural data that is available in the world. And also most countries and most regions in the world want to preserve some level of sovereignty on their data. So they're not going to share all of their cultural data. So the future I see, which is the next stage in open source AI, is a future in which AI systems will constitute a kind of repository of all human knowledge. And they will be trained in a distributed, federated fashion with contributions from different entities, different data centers around the world. They're not going to be exchanging data. They're going to be exchanging parameter vectors. Okay, so imagine a future where every region in the world has access to their own data. They contribute to training a global model using their own data center. And then periodically they exchange parameter vectors with everyone else. And so in the end, what we have is a gigantic model that knows everything about everything, but nobody has exchanged any data. So everyone sort of preserves some control over the data. There is no, issues of people getting data from, regions that don't want to share it. So that's the future I see. I think we need to build it. And that's kind of very interesting future. And for this to happen, we need to have governments on our side. We need them to be very careful not to regulate open source out of existence. I think we're kind of winning that battle. Okay, there was some time, maybe in the last year or two, where people who are really worried about the intrinsic risk of AI, which I think are completely overblown, convince governments to perhaps regulate AI so that, which would have essentially made open source AI illegal. And I think we are past that point. And one of the things, I think one of the lessons of the AI Summit today is that it has much more of a positive view than the summit that took place at Bletchley Park in the UK last year. Okay, so now, important question. I'm a scientist after all. When are we going to get human level AI? Do we need human level AI? Yes, because we're going to walk around with those smart glasses, and we're going to need to have sort of human level AI systems that we can talk to them. Those glasses don't have a display, but within the next year or so, we're going to have glasses with displays and with EMG interfaces, so we can like point and click with our fingers, type with our hands in our pocket, things like that. And pretty soon that's going to be the new computing platform, and it's enabled by AI. And then in a few years we'll have like full augmented reality glasses, but right now that's too expensive. So in the future, all of us will be walking around with basically a virtual staff of super smart virtual people helping us in our daily lives. It's like every one of us would be kind of a boss of a staff of people, right? All of us would be sort of a manager, if you want, right? That sounds either exciting or horrible, depending on what you think. But that's going to amplify everyone's intelligence and efficiency and creativity and productivity. So the big question now is a technical one. How long is it going to take for us to produce systems that have human level intelligence? And this is the kind of stuff that we work on at FAIR, which is the Fundamental AI Research Lab of Meta, spread over 7 different sites across North America and Europe, about 500 scientists and engineers. And we're working on the next generation AI systems beyond LLMs. Okay, so first thing is, there's no question that at some point in the future, we'll have systems that have human level intelligence and beyond. No question. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen 2 years from now. 2 years from now, we might have systems that for narrow domains have, superhuman abilities. But there are still major challenges to overcome. We need AI systems that understand the physical world, have persistent memory, are capable of reasoning, and capable of planning. And basically, LLMs, as they stand today, are completely incapable of any of those things, are only capable of very sort of elementary versions of it, despite all the hoopla about reasoning models, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So that's the stuff that we're working on. We think we're going to have a good idea of whether we're on a good path within 3 to 5 years, something like that. And then after that, it's going to take a while to figure out how to make those things smart enough so that they attain human intelligence. The key question is going to be, at what point do we have systems that are as smart as a cat? Because, okay, we have LLMs, they can pass the bar exam, they can solve equations, they can compute integrals, but we've had computers to do this for a while. We don't have machines that are as smart as a cat. We don't have machines. We don't have domestic robots. We don't have completely autonomous self-driving cars. And that's because we don't have technology to make AI systems understand the physical world. That's what needs to be done. And then we'll have systems that have common sense. And we have solved human level intelligence. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jan. Thank you. I love that idea about everyone being a boss. I definitely thought that was a great image. All right, well, now we're going to talk about strategic components of AI. And you guys might be thinking data. Some of you might be thinking energy. We're going to talk about infrastructure. I can't think about anybody better to talk about infrastructure than the two following people. Help me in welcoming back our Minister for Digital and AI, Clara Chapaz, and the CEO of AMD, Lisa Su. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, again. I'm very, very happy to be able to have this chat with you, Lisa. You're not only one of the greatest business leader when it comes to AI, but you're also a woman CEO of one of the top Fortune company, and that's not that many worldwide. So it's very much a pleasure to show that you can be a woman and succeed in business. That's also important. So tell us a bit more about AMD. Like, in a few words, what's the business you're operating? What's your vision and your strategy?
Wonderful. Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see the energy in this hall. Fantastic. And Clara, it's wonderful. You know, big congratulations to you, to President Macron, to this wonderful AI Action Summit. To see the energy around AI these past few days has been truly inspiring. And from AMD's standpoint, we have one goal in life. Our one goal is to give you the best high performance compute so you can innovate on top of it. So how many of you want more GPUs? A few? Look, our goal is to push the envelope on computing. And I think you heard from Sam and Jan. I mean, at the end of the day, the infrastructure layer is here to enable all of the innovation on top of that at the model layers, at the application layers, and then finally, you know, for end users to really make that happen. So that is our goal in life, is to bring the best infrastructure, the best silicon to enable all of this innovation.
Great. Inspiring. And we know how important infrastructure is to this game. So really pleased to hear more about your vision on that front. I think we share a passion, France and AMD, which is called open source. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you're envisioning open source in this whole game?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about all of the innovation that's happening and that has happened over the last few years, I'm a big believer in collaboration amongst companies, around ecosystems, around countries, is what really moves that forward. And from the standpoint of what we're doing on the hardware side, we are moving at an incredible pace to bring new technologies in, to get you more flops, to get more capability. But to do that also requires an open ecosystem. And this is the idea that there is no one company that has all of the ideas. Actually, it's best when you put it all together. And I think that's an open hardware ecosystem as well as an open software ecosystem so that we can innovate on top of each other's innovations. And, you know, just as, you know, if I just give you an example, if you look at today, the top 500 supercomputers in the world, you know, AMD has 5 out of the top 10 supercomputers. 2 of those are here in Europe. And that has come from just a tremendous collaboration throughout the ecosystem. So today in AI, you know, our goal is to enable not only the largest model companies and the largest companies out there, but especially the startups who have all of the ideas able to really disrupt the industry. What we would like to do is be the platform on which you can innovate on top of and provide all of the pieces for hardware and software components.
So what do you tell to some people who might be worried about open source? What do you tell to that?
You know, the main thing to say is at the end of the day, yes, there are some guardrails that need to be in place, but you can't substitute the power of the entire industry coming together. And I know that we share that with France. I think we've seen that when you have open models, you're able to see just in a very, very short amount of time how people come through. And of course, there's a lot of sharing that happens across these, you know, different groups.
At the AI Action Summit that's just concluding today, one of the big themes was sustainability. I know that a lot of people are asking themselves, rightly in the room, okay, you talk a lot about AI, but what about the impact on the environment? Like, is that really sustainable? Is that worth it to, have this impact on the planet? I know AMD is very committed to this discussion. You actually signed the pledge, and we're very happy and grateful for that. Can you tell us a little bit more, like how do you see these type of issues, and is that actually a competitive advantage for you? How does that all play out?
Well, the way to think about it is in our world, we have a huge focus on more performance, more performance, more performance. But it's not just more performance, it's more performance at the best efficiency. And that's really what sustainability is about. I think what I'd like to see is holistic design, where you really design across all of the components so that you get the most efficient capability. And no question, it's a hard problem. When we think about some of the inhibitors out there, the fact is we all want more computing power, and that requires more power. I think many of the sustainability initiatives that have been talked about over the last few days have been extremely good and in the right direction. And from an AMD standpoint, we're going to continue to focus on the best and the most efficient compute so that we can roll that into the sustainability of the overall solutions.
Great, thanks for that. So we're in France, and I've heard that you're considering France to build some kind of partnerships, and especially when it comes to the talent ecosystem, that's something you've been eyeing and working on. Can you share a bit your vision on how you see France as an AI ecosystem, and maybe a little bit about the partnerships you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the France ecosystem is fantastic. So I can't say a warmer welcome. And the beauty of this ecosystem is that you are open to everyone. If you think about all of the global companies and leaders who are here at this AI Action Summit, it really is bringing all of that together. And here this week, we actually announced two important partnerships. First is a partnership with Core42 to provide infrastructure right here in France. We're going to build together in Grenoble with, for AI compute. And we have a number of great partners here in France that are using our technology from a computing standpoint to really expand that infrastructure. And then I also believe that as important as today is, research is just as important. So I'm happy to say that we've announced a new research partnership with the CEA to focus on next generation AI compute. So we're always thinking about what's next. In the silicon world, as you guys are innovating in applications and software today, we're innovating on the silicon and hardware solutions for 3 to 5 years down the road and making, really, how do we unlock that next level of performance? So we love the startup ecosystem here. We love the opportunity to collaborate. Our goal is to make compute as easy to get as possible, as accessible as possible, so that we can see tremendous, tremendous progress over the next few years.
Great. Lisa, thank you. Maybe one last thing. What's your advice to everyone in this room when they're thinking building their own AI companies, when they're thinking about this whole world?
What I would say is I've been in this tech industry for the last 30 plus years, and I can tell you there has never, ever been a more exciting time for technology than today. I think you guys are incredibly lucky to be starting companies in this time frame. And my belief is dream big, right? Nobody says big companies have all of the good ideas. The fact is sometimes you get the best ideas out of the most unexpected places. We've recently acquired a number of startups because we know that they can bring into AMD new energy, new thinking, new ability to innovate. And I'm super excited to see this resurgence in the startup community. And my big advice, think big, think ambitious. And we'll very, very happily learn from all of you along the way.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, well, you guys heard it from Lisa. Not all the great ideas come from big corporates, and they're acquiring a lot. So we want to hear from some startups, some of our most promising startups. So we picked two of our absolute most promising startups that we could find. Please help me in welcoming on stage the CEO of H Company, Charles Cantor, and a company that is very dear to our hearts, Hugging Face, Thomas Wolf. This is the co-founder and CSO. Round of applause for them. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I'm Charles. I'm the CEO of H Company. I'm going to intro you, Thomas, for this discussion. So we build at H what we call like agentic superintelligence. So we start with a vertical approach to building agents in different markets. And we want to generalize to this kind of research where we use both like the reasoning approach of our models and the visual approach to take actions in different environments. Before like going a bit further, I'd like to let you like potentially Thomas, you're co-founder at Hugging Face. Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Charles. Big pleasure to be here. Big pleasure to talk with you in this special day for France, for AI, for Europe, for the world, for open source in particular also. So I'm Thomas Wolf. I'm co-founder of Hugging Face. At Hugging Face, what we are building is a platform where we actually gather the open source community, which is increasing every day. We just passed 10 million users, which is really big because these are all AI builders. And they come to our platform to share models, to share data sets, to also share what we call spaces, which are AI apps where you can actually try models and play with them. And this is growing extremely strongly. It's, I would say, one of the basic building block when you want to build AI yourself instead of maybe using, an API. So I think we started our adventure quite a long time ago, 8 years ago, and we started that actually moving to New York, even though all three co-founders are French. And I think, Charles, you started quite differently from the US and moving back to France. So maybe what brought you back to France, right?
I think it's a good question for both of us. What's the moat in France? I think so. When we started the company, we had this ambition to have like both a very strong like cutting edge research at the same time like a product led approach. And in France, we benefit from very strong institutions from the research perspective. We have like amazing talents that are stemming from amazing universities. We also have like the benefits of pre-established US companies that are already like out there. We have like institutions that are well known and renowned. And so we had like a direct benefit, especially in the AI field, to build like this company here. So I think like the question is now like, why not building in France? Because I think we start to have like a very strong ecosystem. What's your take?
Yeah, I think the situation changed a lot between 8 years ago when we created Hugging Face and today. I think there is a lot of reasons you would like to start a company in France today. So obviously the one that comes often, and Yann Lequin was just talking, we have all these talents, right? So not everyone has Yann Lequin, but there is young Yann Lequin everywhere in France, and they are there. There is this huge talent pool, which is amazing. And I think another thing is the general attractivity. So for instance, we used to have really a big office in New York. Now our largest office is in France by far. It's close to 100 people in France. And these 100 people, they're not all French. There is like 25 different nationalities. And everyone, when you actually tell them, hey, do you want to come work in Paris in AI? They're very excited. It's very, there's a lot of attraction for France. And I would say the last thing is this, and it's very iconic to be in Station F because we also started here. We stayed 3 years here. So this kind of startup ecosystem is very vibrant. I think it's attractive for many people. It even leads to some competition. So we like exchange co-workers between Ash and Hugging Face. But I think there's a lot of good things. Now, sometimes people ask, okay, what are the limits? Why should not everyone come building in France? I think there's still things we could do better. I'm not sure capital is as much as a limitation it was maybe 8 years ago. I think now it's pretty nice that you can raise also huge rounds in Europe and in France. I think one limit is still really the ambition of people. When you build a startup in France, you should not think I'm building a French startup. You should think I'm building a global startup. So I will tackle very quickly the US market. Maybe you want to tackle Chinese market. Maybe you want to tackle the whole European market. So I think this mentality, and thankfully Station F is a great place for that, to think global. But I think it's something I really try to push in all the young, founders I see, which is you're starting here, but you should assume this is like Silicon Valley, right? You should build your global company. And according to me, that's the main limitation, or that's the main thing I'm still really fighting for here.
I fully agree with this. I think we need to think like beyond just the skills. We need to think in terms of ecosystem. And there is beauty in starting in France because we have like a very strong like talent pool. We can create like very strong research and products. But then when it comes to the go-to-market, you need to test fast, or you need to fail fast, basically. And for this, you need to be integrated within an ecosystem. So the beauty of Hugging Face is the community. But I think beyond like community, it's also like a question of making sure your product can be tested quickly, can be adopted quickly, so that you get the feedback and the signal from the right markets. At H, the focus we have, as I mentioned, is bringing this research from a generalist perspective, making sure we build like strong agentic intelligence, and then verticalizing. And to verticalize, you need to be aware and I think very picky in terms of the vertical you want to choose. And for this, you need to iterate fast. And so I think the ecosystemic play is the play that we should have for all the startups of the ecosystem.
Interesting, yeah. I think for us, iterating fast, like you say, was the reason we really survived. So we really started as a game company. So we iterated on many versions of games. And then we started to expand what we were doing, iterating on code, and then finding at some point that open source libraries were getting a very surprising traction, that everyone started to use our library. So this phase, I think, of the first 2 years for us, which were like, let's try many things and see what sticks and see what works, is something that's super important to do. In AI, even more, because we don't even know really what will be the most impactful product in AI yet, right? We all know about chatbots, but it's pretty clear agent is going to be game changing this year, and it's going to maybe change totally the way we interact with these models.
So what's your take on the most exciting and promising like agentic fields for 25 and then 26?
So there's a couple of fields. I would say agents is something, but I will let you talk about this part. On my side, I'm very excited about robotics. If some of you stay tonight for the event, we'll bring some robots here, some open source robots, obviously. They look a little bit 3D printed. Some of them were just still had some tape on them when I saw them at the office, so we're going to fix them, but they're also very cheap, and they can already start doing crazy things like folding your clothes or like, filling your dishwasher, this type of thing. So I think this is very exciting. And then thinking even further in the future, in a couple of years, I'm very excited about many startups doing AI for science, basically AI to discover new materials, AI to, predict weather forecast, AI for like protein prediction. So here you probably saw just earlier on stage, Bioptimus, for instance, this type of startup. I think in the future, we now have AI who is doing like amazing things in terms of a chatbot, but in the future, I think we're going to change totally, the way we live, basically.
Yeah, I think we're going to go beyond like chatbots, customer support. I think we'll have like an era, especially for 25, of different front ends to host like this technology. And so when we started to build like agents, we quickly realized that the chatbot approach was not necessarily like the best approach. You need to interact with different environments, so you need to build a new product. If you interact with the web, you need to be able to display this action on the web. If you interact with a desktop, you need also like to represent this interaction, and same on device. So I think like we start to enter with these new reasoning capabilities, an era where you will have like a ton of innovation on the front end perspective as well. So excited at H about the agents for productivity. Um, you can think about these terms of form factors like copilots. We do believe in augmenting the human at work. We do believe in augmenting the performance you can have when you test products, when you automate actions, and that's the challenge we're taking for 25.
One thing I really like about what you're saying is that there was a lot of discussion, maybe more in the previous AI summit around AGI, and building this kind of like superhuman thing. And I think this summit is much more about building, assistant and things that actually, have a real impact in our life and actually help us do real things. Earlier you saw Sam talking, right? And deep research, for instance, is maybe one example of this agent. I think HU probably gonna open source some agent very soon that's gonna open source, I don't know, but at least release some agent that will change the way.
Together.
Hopefully we open source them together. Yeah, I think I really like about this summit that we talk about building things and not just about dreaming of superhuman, Do you believe in AGI, Charles?
What's the difference between AGI and superhuman intelligence?
It's a good question. I think if you think about assistants, you even don't really think about human intelligence, but you think more about, okay, I have a human doing something. How can I help him the most, right? It's not about the IQ of something. It's about I need to let this person do a work or do a task in a much more easy way, right?
I think if we want to speak about like intelligence and then the superhuman capabilities, then we need to speak about like assessing these capabilities. So we need to speak about like metrics of evaluation, so benchmarks. And I think 24 was filled with the same benchmarks. 25 is going to be about like new benchmarks. We see it for agents. It's different from LLMs, VLMs, and all like these large models that we saw initially. We're gonna see like profusion of agents. We're gonna see like many agents popping up in 25. And when we build these agents, starting with agents interacting with the web, with desktop, we just understand that we need to have like different metrics of assessment. So you have like general benchmarks, you have like general evaluations to assess like your performance at gathering some information. But what if you want to have like a very strong performance in a specific domain, such as like front-end recognition, UI recognition, etc. So I think we're going to need like a huge effort to build these benchmarks.
I love that. Let's conclude on that. A call for more evaluation, better understanding our models. Thanks a lot, Charles.
Thanks, Thomas.
I absolutely love when we get into the philosophical debate. Do we believe in AGI or not? That's a great way to end. Let's go to something a bit more tangible, though. How about the foundations, building the foundations for AI ecosystems? So we picked a company that has really lived an incredible transformation and is building an incredible ecosystem from research onwards. And so let's give a warm welcome to the Deputy CEO of Iliad Group, Aude Durand.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I have to say I'm honored to be here to speak among such brilliant panelists. It's really a pleasure. These last 2 days have been incredible. I remember just a couple weeks ago, the mood was very different here in Paris. There was a lot of talk about how is Europe or France ever going to make it in AI? Is AI even good for society? And now after spending 2 days with all of you, AI specialists who really believe in the technology and who want to create success for this ecosystem, it's really empowering. So how are we going to do to create a successful ecosystem? Well, we believe that we should work on an AI that is solid, efficient, and open. And let me explain what I mean by this. Solid because we need to build solid foundations for AI. It comes in two things: talents, and there's been a lot of talk about this already. It takes years to train talents. We need to continue investing in creating or maintaining the curriculums that create the best talents. Then we need to invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure can cover a lot of things: data centers, computing power, cloud platforms, but all of these are the building blocks for the talents to create the best model and for the entire ecosystem to use them. So solid foundations are the brick and mortar for a successful AI ecosystem. But then we need to work on making AI efficient. I've just talked about infrastructure and investing in infrastructure. Resources are not unlimited, neither money nor energy. And they should not be, probably. I mean, we want to build something that is optimized for the long run. So we should focus on making models lighter, on making models that are more specific for use cases, on making AI that is more efficient on the dollar and on the watt hour that is consumed. And to do this, to make AI more efficient, we need research. Which brings me to my third point. AI needs to be open. In order for research to advance, all of these breakthroughs need to be shared. People need to build on top of what all the other teams have been doing, and they need to move together through all the next breakthroughs and optimizations that we're going to see for this technology. AI is still at the beginning. So AI should be solid, efficient, and open. We think that these are the keys for success. You're thinking, okay, this is all good, but what can we really do to make this happen? And who's this girl who's giving us lessons and who's not really showing anything for what she's saying? So at Iliad, we've decided, under the leadership of our beloved shareholder Xavier Niel, to invest 3 billion euros in AI to build those foundations. We're investing 2.5 billion euros in data centers. We already know how to build data centers. We've built them for 2 decades. This is not paper money. We're actually going to make this happen in hundreds of megawatts. Then we need to invest in computing power, and we've done this through our cloud provider Scaleway to make the computing power big for training or inference accessible on a secure cloud platform. And finally, we've invested in research, and we funded the Open Science Lab QTI almost 2 years ago, who's now a top player in the field of audio generative AI. We've also funded a number of startups. A lot of them are here today, so it's very, very nice to see all of you here contributing to the ecosystem every day. So what I can do is mainly encourage you to use all of these building blocks, encourage you to use all of the open source models that exist. And don't let anyone tell you that the best models are American or Chinese, that the best tools are such or such. Try for yourselves. That's what you need to do to contribute to the ecosystem. Try all the solutions for yourself. Choose what's best to create value in your company and bring this to the ecosystem. Together, we can actually build AI that is solid, efficient, and open. Thank you very much, and we'll see you here again in November for the new edition of AI Pulse. Thank you.
All right, so Aude talked a lot about building, but she also said another word that I think is pretty key, funding. And I know you guys want to talk about funding because we've talked about so many components of the AI ecosystem that require a lot of money. So if you guys could help me in welcoming back on stage CEO of BPI France, Nicolas Dufour, and Antoine Blondeau from Alpha Intelligence Capital. Thank you.
So back on scene. Okay. Okay. So Nicolas Dufour, I present to you Antoine Blondeau, who's the founder and the head of an AI investment fund called Alpha Intelligence, one of the funds that we are funding. Maybe you know, I suppose you do, but we are every year pouring a lot of money in funds. We put 1.7 billion euros per year in funds. So we finance basically 400 funds, and it's going to be more and more AI funds, of course. And this is part of what I announced yesterday with the 10 billion. So maybe, Antoine, you could tell us how and why you decided to build that Alpha Intelligence Fund, and when? 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, I bought it. I founded it 5-6 years ago. This was after 20 years of hard labor building companies. You know, I'm a big believer in deep AI, so algorithmic science will create products and businesses that have immense value, right? And we see that. But essentially, it was based on my history as an entrepreneur and technologist. You know, my team and I built what became Siri back 10 years ago, we had probably the world's largest farm of GPUs, 10,000 GPUs, way back when. And this is that experience that led me to start AIC. And thank you so much for your support.
So how would you see the main challenges of today, having in mind that a lot has been done already in the journey, but we're facing big competition for AI in Europe? What would you be your first advice, I would say?
So what's the first call to action?
First call to action.
First call to action is adoption, right? So it's essential that large and medium-sized corporates in Europe adopt AI. What does that mean? When the president said, plug, baby, plug, I want to say buy, baby, buy. Why? Buy talent, invest in talent, buy solutions, give revenue to startups, and also buy companies. We are very fortunate to invest in a company called InstaDeep. Some of you know Karim Beguir, based in London and Paris. And they were not bought by a US firm. They were bought by a European firm, BioNTech, a German firm. And we want to see a lot more of this, right?
That's what we see, by the way, in AI in healthcare, in medtech. We see that in AI in biotech. Why? Just because the big pharmas are used to open innovation. I mean, 70% of the medicines that are putting on the market are coming from startups. So there is a whole ecosystem in which the big guys, the big groups are used to buy startups and to buy intellectual property, which is developed by startups, financed by you and me. We absolutely need to convince the other sectors, which are classical industry. Yesterday, there was this announcement of Stellantis and Mistral, to do the same and to embark in an avenue of open innovation, which is very new for them. It's completely counterintuitive for them. You look at automobile, you look at aerospace, you look at semiconductors. I happen to be the chairman of ST Microelectronics. And you know what? I mean, in semiconductors, working on an open innovation basis, tough, difficult. They're going to have to go that route. Otherwise, they will miss AI.
Yeah, because think about it, right? We're moving towards a world where value is driven by machine intelligence, right? Historically, all of these companies were built based on human brains, but going forward, a lot of it will be machine brains. That's why they've got to invest in it today, not tomorrow.
And as an investor, in the classical sort of an artificial, I would say, conflict between open source and non-open source, what's your position?
Look, we happen to have invested in OpenAI, so I'm not going to say open source, closed source is bad, right? We believe in vertical integration, and the reason why we believe that OpenAI is going to succeed is not just because they've got great technology, is because Sam Altman is a product person, and in the AI world, you have to build products. At the same time, for the ecosystem to be vibrant, it needs powerful and widely available technology, which is open source. And Jan is a very close friend, is an advisor to our fund, and is the biggest proponent on earth of open source, so we like it too.
The question of adoption remains the basic problems that we are facing today. So adoption of the companies which are giving revenues to Hugging Face and Mistral and so forth, but behind the big companies, there is the adoption of the customers of those companies. So, I mean, we all need to understand our duty, which is to convince the whole society to buy AI-powered products of the mortar and brick classical companies. Otherwise, they will not embark in AI. So, question collectively, what do we do? What is your sort of small piece in that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a lot of it is about trust, right? Do we as consumers trust technology that is being delivered by AI and AI based, whomever produces it? Let me give you an example. I don't know how many of you have ridden in a Waymo car in San Francisco, Phoenix, or LA. How many of you? So yeah, maybe about 10%.
Yeah, a small 10%, I would say.
5%.
Okay.
So I encourage you to do this. Why? Because the moment you get into that car, within 60, 90 seconds, you feel very comfortable. Right. Because the car drives like a human, right? And it's, I was I'm very self-aware. I've been in AI for 30 years. So when I got into the car, I thought, am I actually doing the right thing? But then I brought my family into it, and sure enough, they also felt the same way. Within 90 seconds, they were on their phones. So when we build things that feel right, that we can embrace, and products that are easy to use, then we embrace them, whether they're driven by humans or driven by, like pun intended, the car by a machine.
So the whole challenge is for everybody to have this epoch-making impression and something that on a lifetime basis changes your view
Yeah.
completely. It's true that when you drive a Waymo in San Francisco, you understand that you're in a new world, and you start to understand that the car industry, for example, is probably going to be a sort of metal industry providing vehicles to software companies which will power the vehicles. So everything changes in the way you understand the value chain. It's when I say it's epoch making, it's really flabbergasting for these big companies. We are maybe in the years 70s, in which nobody thought that Boussac Saint-Frère, you remember that company would fail. Nobody thought that it was not Arcelor, it was la sidérurgie, c'était Sassilor, would fail. And it failed in 6 to 7 years because of technology, actually. Not only because of China, because of technology also. So we need to understand the gravity of the situation for the old timers if they don't embark in AI just now.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why adoption by large corporates is absolutely critical to remain competitive. Let me say one more thing. We've talked a lot about regulation, and I think the announcements the last few days have been really positive. I'm not a big fan of regulation. Let me tell you why. Two reasons. First of all, regulation protects the big. It doesn't protect the small, right? It's easier for large corporations to pay for regulation, to be compliant. It's harder for small firms. So if you're going to regulate, think about how you can exempt smaller firms, how you can drive innovation by lifting the ecosystem from bottom up. Second reason, we don't regulate our human brain, right? My brain is not regulated. My brain is regulated in its application. It's in its application. If I'm a doctor, if I'm a driver, if I'm a lawyer, I'm not regulated the same way. And that is actually quite critical. So let's not try to regulate AI as a whole. Let's regulate it in its application by professions. And there are good existing frameworks for this. They've been built by professionals. So a second call to action perhaps is let the professions help regulate properly AI as opposed to governments from the top down.
Maybe I could voice a little bit of a counter view on that. It's a debate.
It's a debate.
I think that we should not be shy of, let's say, of course, properly regulating AI, because we have to recognize like in any new technology, by the way, it's the same for pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are regulated. I mean, you don't put a medicine on the market without an authorization because it's dangerous for the bodies, and it's approximately the same for a lot of things in AI. So notably for the mass market and for the retail market. For the B2B market, what you can do with your own data in a company with AI tools, that's okay. And it's extraordinarily powerful. For the mass market, for our kids, for my kids, for my grandchildren, I want AI to be a little bit regulated. I have to recognize.
Maybe a last call to action?
Yeah, we have 57 seconds. So last call to action.
Last call to action. Maybe, we've got a lot of money in Europe. It's not funding that's missing. We've got tremendous amounts of money, and we've seen it the last few days. And you're a big part of this, Nicolas. But I think if you look at the capital markets, when you're going to want to go public, you go public on NASDAQ. Why is this? Because the North American markets are very vibrant. And so one maybe final call to action is, let's think about how we can drive some of these savings to invest in the public markets so that we've got vibrant IPO markets in Europe again.
That's for sure. And for that, I mean, you all have bankers. Normally, classically, your bankers are proposing to you to invest your savings in ETFs. And they tell you, You should invest in US global equity and then US tech equity and then, US large venture equity. And then, no, listen to me, invest in the US. I mean, you need to be brave enough to tell them, guy, okay, just a slice, I will invest in US. I want to invest in Europe. What can you propose to me? Give me an ETF on European technology and your bankers will have to change. So don't just follow those advices. Otherwise, everything we say is going to end up in selling all our companies to US big platforms. That's the call to action. Talk to your bankers. Ask for European ETFs. Listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, leave it to two investors and you get a session that talks about brain regulation and Waymo in the same 10 minutes. That's incredible. We got a lot out of that. But we're going to now talk about something that I think is on everybody's mind because we're all preparing for it, building for it, selling for it. And that's the transformation of business through AI. So we have two incredible companies that are going to talk about this. Please help me in welcoming the former president of Salesforce, Alexandre Dayon, and the COO of BNP, Sophie Heller. Thank you.
So we've seen this fantastic technology, and obviously the question is, business transformation must be an easy thing, no? Well, yes and no. So I'll start with the rather yes. The banks have profoundly transformed for the last decade. They have embraced digitalization to cope with the new clients' expectations and behaviors. And a lot of processes have been digitalized, and some core activities such as marketing or risk have been automated using models. So in those cases, it's relatively easy to integrate AI to improve the accuracy of those models and scores. So let's take a very concrete example. In marketing, picture a marketing score. It's used to give a single answer to a single question. So how many of my customers would be interested in picking up my product A? Now with AI engine, we are able to not only orchestrate in real time a multitude of product scores, but also process data related to risk, to the product economics, but also to the immediate contextual client context. And that enables us to have a next best action. So for each customer, the best product, the best channel, and the best timing. So this is an example for marketing. For risk, for example, if you are a small business client, the AI can analyze the financial flows out of your bank account and is helping the credit analyst to come up with a much better and quicker answer to grant a loan. If you take a mortgage application for a retail client, the AI is now able to extract automatically all the information from the documents provided and spot the differences between what has been declared by the customer and what the documents show. That alone enables to decrease the processing time of a mortgage by 40%. So these are only two examples out of more than 800 use cases that are already in production at BNP Paribas. And we still believe that there's still a lot of potential and opportunities to find the value for customers and employees in that end-to-end optimization of processes. So traditional AI brings a lot of value. It's largely embraced and it has still many opportunities. Now, Gen AI. So Gen AI can read, can listen, can write, and it's not perfect, but it's very good already, and it's going to, with all the efforts of those gentlemen, is going to improve very fast. At the bank, we have many activities that involve listening, writing, and reading. So that opens up tons of possibilities. The problem is investment are also high, and the complexity makes it now a really a CEO agenda, which was not the case with traditional AI. So let's take an example. At BNP Paribas, we focus very much on the virtual assistant and agentic AI. We see a lot of value both for customers, but also employees in all lines of business, retail, corporate, insurance, wealth management, all the businesses. If you take an example of retail clients, for a retail client, a virtual assistant is really an opportunity to have immediate processing of the request, such as I want to block my card, I lost my card, I want to block my card, or to answer a question, even personal questions. So how much did I spend in restaurant last month? So this creates a lot of value and drives a lot of satisfaction for the customer, for the employee. That also drives a lot of ROI for the bank, both on the cost saving, because you can avoid calls and emails, and also on the revenue generation, because you're able, through multiple conversation with the VA, to detect opportunities for business. So to capture this huge value, mass adoption from customers, and Nicolas talked about that before, is very essential. And that requires not only designing, as was said, a fantastic product for the customer, but also making sure that all your employees are actively promoting it to the customer, engaging the customer in stress to try it out, and finally, reaching seamless integration with all your client-related systems. So your mobile app, but also your CRM, your client management, contact, and etc. So this is very complex, and this is definitely more a company initiative handled at the CEO level rather than just a tech or AI challenge.
Thank you, Sophie, for sharing your value proposition and experience at BNP Paribas with AI. I'd like to complement your perspective with really three themes. First, the concept that the monetization of AI, which is the real question in those 2 days, are we going to make money with AI, will be through the enterprise. And I think that's a very important theme, because at this point, AI is probably the most disruptive thing that can happen to an enterprise like BNP Paribas. You shared those ROIs and those examples. The second element is obviously how this is going to happen. Is this happening, and at which pace? And the third one is obviously the impact on enterprise and software vendors. So if you step back, we're living through an incredible technology revolution that, to be monetized, we'll have to create value for BNP Paribas, for every single company in the world. And that is a paradigm shift. And I think what we're going to see emerging, because today a lot of amazing AI is not yet generating a lot of revenue. If you look at the global IT spendings, it's $400 billion spent every day by companies in IT. Very little of that is in AI. If you look at your own budget, very little of that is in AI. And the reason being that AI is very hard to integrate in the company. And there is really two sides of the coin. The first one is the AI technology is not really yet packaged to be easily absorbed by enterprise. And clearly what we're seeing in 2025, and I think 2025 is going to be really the pivot with agentic AI and tons of software vendors, big, new emerging, coming to market with vertical focused AI solving specific problem. So that's going to really accelerate the adoption, the ease of integration of those technology, and the value delivery. This is true for large vendors. Obviously, I come from an industry called CRM, there is billions of low-hanging fruits in terms of AI with agentic AI. I mean, in some segment of the market, you take banking, telcos, you could totally envision no more call centers. I mean, you can put an agent to do 90% of the processing and the work, and that's the path you engage. But that's true also in other industry where I work, like manufacturing, where the design, the conception, the compliance, the testing of a product can be completely generated through generative AI. So we're going to see in the coming 2 years a new generation of vendors, a new generation of applications serving very specific agents in the enterprise to deliver the value. And that's going to be a formidable opportunity for monetization. That's the first thing. The second thought is obviously our companies, and it's kind of a question for you. I know you're going to address that. Are companies ready to absorb? Because AI is not just yet another level of business process optimization. An agent is actually a pretty fundamental shift in the way you look at your enterprise information system. It's not, I mean, I've been working in enterprise software for 30 years, and the architecture has not really changed since then. Data, business process, interface, and that's kind of the way every single application in the world, SAP, Salesforce, Microsoft works. Well, with AI, it's a very different way to look at the business process because the agent is actually going to build the business process. And the agent can build 1,000 versions of your enterprise and pick the best one. So it's a very different way for a CEO to think about his enterprise. And that's going to be a very profound reskilling, both of C-level management, but also of CEOs. And it's amazing to see that in 2025, there's still no chief AI officer in many committee. I think we're going to see that coming in the coming years to help the adoption of those technology, which are really profound. But the reskilling is going to be very massive, and that's why there's an opportunity for the vendors and the technology providers to reduce that gap and to be easier to absorb. So these are really the three things I think that are happening in 2025. One, monetization of AI. This is going to be the year of monetization. It's going to be the year of really vertical agent AI for the enterprise that solve very specific problems solving, and a kind of a cultural shift in terms of reskilling in enterprise. What do you think should be the playbook at BNP? Do you agree, disagree with that?
No, I totally agree. And I think that I'd like to share maybe the fact that you push a lot of the technology, and I think it's also very much a cultural revolution because we need also, in order to have the right product, of course, you need to have the technology, have the right partnership, and we've made a partnership with Mistral that will come after, because for us, it was extremely key to protect the data, and because we are handling, if you're talking about a bank, you are handling really confidential and banking data, so that allows us to process the data internally and not have the data externally. But all the design, I mean, the behavioral sciences, I mean, there are many other skills that are extremely important because we need to be better also at understand what drives motivation, how we are going to push the other people to promote it actively, have the right experience. We know that from the moment that you have a conversational agent, it's not anymore a machine. It's emotionally, it drives all the emotion like a human. So there are tons of questions. I mean, what is the tone of voice of that assistant? Are you going to personalize the tone of voice? Is it going to a man, a woman, etc., etc.? So I think that it's fascinating how much all the questions needs to be answered yet. But maybe as a conclusion, if I want to leave with you with three things about the key success factors to transform the business with AI, to be first really the focus on the value. I think this is extremely essential. And this is why it has to be handled at the CAO level. Then the second, you said that, the change management. I mean, how do you create for everyone in the company the trust to use it, to use the AI? So it has to come with a lot of training from the front office people and teach them how to use Copilot to more technical roles and how to deploy AI in the infrastructure and architecture. And finally, maybe also it's really the risk measurement and risk management, because we have risks that are known. We can think about incorrect data or data quality issues, but now this comes also with other risks such as hallucinations. So of course, implementing guardrails, conducting tests that has been said also before, and also performing a red teaming is going to be absolutely essential to deploy any case in a company like us.
So thanks for sharing your experience. I think 2025 is going to be a pivotal year in monetizing AI. I think we're going to see now the value delivered to many enterprise. There is clearly trailblazer CEOs who are embarking on those AI pilots that are becoming now AI deployments. And clearly it's going to be a very vertical AI. I'm sure the discussion next year on this stage will be different. It will be about how does Valeo has transformed the business with AI, does BNP Paribas has transformed the business with AI, and with a vertical AI, agentic AI, and not about open source versus proprietary. I think we're going to see tons of new champions emerging. So it's very exciting time to be here.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for being part of the conversation.
Thanks.
All right. This is our last speaker of this sequence. And I think that the last sentence that we just heard was about emerging champions. Who better than the champion who has emerged the fastest in the history of the ecosystem? And also somebody who's become just beyond iconic for not just France, but I think all of Europe and the AI ecosystem on a global level. Please help me in welcoming back Minister Clara Chapaz and the CEO of Mistral, Arthur Mensch.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. Very happy to be here. Hi, Arthur.
Hello. Hi, Clara.
How are you doing?
Great. It's the end of the summit.
It's true that Arthur has become iconic. I heard you're even going to have your face, like gigantic poster on the Make It Iconic campaign. But I was told Arthur is humble, so let's not talk about that.
I'm looking forward to have my face in Charles de Gaulle Airport.
Okay, Arthur, can you tell us how you came with this mission of building Mistral?
So we got started at the beginning of 2023 with Guillaume and Timothée, and we were scientists in the field, so we knew what it took to actually make models that were useful and to do it quickly. And so realizing this, we started to speak a little bit about our projects to friends, and that's how we got like a team of 15 scientists to get started. And we were convinced that by being more efficient and by being focused on like the right things that matters in science, we could make something significant in a few months. And that's how we got started. So we started in April. The 15 people worked a lot the entire summer, and then we released something called Mistral 7B that made us known in September 2023. And ever since, we've been continuing on our path toward being more efficient than others, but also scaling. That as my friend Sam mentions, oftentimes it's useful. And so we've been accelerating that, and our conviction has been that we needed more decentralized AI, so models that companies could take, models that companies could modify, that they could deploy everywhere. And that was a counter-positioning compared to what OpenAI was promoting. And our conviction was that Europe also needed champions, and there's a lot of champions out there in AI, in particular in France. And we wanted to make a foundational champion. So a company that would do science fast enough and that would be able to shape the technology at a global level. So that's how we got started.
Fast forward a few years later, that sounded like a great idea, and we definitely need champions. Wait, there's something you're missing in the story. When did your love for cats come?
So I have a cat, actually. It's a good question. I wasn't expecting it. I have a cat called Christine, and she happens to be, I think, yeah, probably, that's probably not the way we named the application, but it possibly played a subconscious role because she's been out there for a while in my apartment.
I'm happy to hear. I'm also a cat person. So the Action Summit is coming to an end. What's your take on what has just happened over the last 6 days here in Paris?
Well, I think the thing that I remember is European optimism and European dynamism. We've seen, in particular yesterday, some announcements of like 50, 60 companies, very big companies in Europe that are pledging to accelerate on AI and pledging to work with regional partners in technology. I think this is great because we have the horizontal technology. We have many startups that are working on bringing the capacity of AI to enterprises, and we have the industry champions that needs to accelerate to keep being the champions. And I think there is really a realization that this needs to occur quickly. And I think it's an inflection point for Europe, and that was actually unexpected. I wasn't expecting that to come up that fast, but I think the Action Summit created this pressure point for everybody to deliver, and so I think we can be collectively very happy of that.
I'm glad we managed to surprise you on that one. So you talk a lot, and that's something that has also been very key to our heart when it comes to building AI. Obviously, we need all this great capacity, all the great investment, all the great commitments from Europe, as you mentioned. But one of the things we're also very passionate about as a country is how do we make sure that all this technology gets into everyone's hand and not just a few people? I know Mistral has been very focused on that, and what would you suggest on that front?
Well, I think it's normal for people to be a little bit afraid of new technology because they don't exactly know how it works. And there's been a lot of stories about like it being made in giant data centers and it possibly becoming autonomous at some point, etc. I think the way to get a hold on the technology is to test it. And what I could recommend is try to identify the things that are the most painful in your life, like the things that are like time consuming that you don't like doing, and try to ask Le Chat whether it's able to do it for you. And I think as the technology evolves, it's going to be more and more able to do it for you. And so those painful tasks, the thing that you could actually automate away, this is going to create time that you can recover to focus on the thing that matters for you. So that's the way I see the technology. I think it can be declined for all of the jobs that people have. It can be declined. I was talking to farmers this morning, and they are using Mistral technology to address the compliance requirements and to help farmers address the compliance requirements with the pack. So that's a great thing. That's usually a painful thing to do for a farmer, and so that's something you can replace. I was talking to my mother, who is a physics teacher, and she's using Mistral to help with the painful part of being a teacher, which is to correct homeworks, and therefore she is regaining time to spend more of her time on creating the lessons and on teaching her students.
That's a really cool example. I've been thinking all the time we were speaking whether Le Chat can do my laundry, but I'm not sure that's happening anytime soon. Okay, you talk about education right now. This is obviously something that France has been very committed towards. Elisabeth Borne, the Minister for Education, has announced that starting September 25, school students aged 9 and 12-year-old will get mandatory classes on AI. What's your take on education and how is Mistral contributing to that goal?
I think this is extremely important, and we've announced this week that we're partnering with French universities and schools to bring Mistral technology to 500,000 students by the beginning of 2025, by September 2025. So that's a great news. And we're not stopping at students. I think it's a very useful tool for teachers to accelerate and personalize the way they're teaching knowledge to students. And I should note that AI needs to be used correctly by students. You can obviously use it to make your homework, but that's really not the point. You should be using it to help you revise your lessons and help you get more knowledge at a faster pace. So by doing it properly and by doing it with the right tools, by doing it with the right scientific experiments, universities are going to run like quantitative metrics on whether this has an effect or not and how it actually affects the pace of learning. We're going to learn how to learn better, and that's pretty exciting for us. And I should say, as Elisabeth Borne announced, this is not something that should start at 18. Should probably start much before, and so starting in quatrième is definitely a very good idea, and we'll be happy to participate in that.
Great to hear. Thank you. Okay, we talked a lot about putting the technology in everyone's hand, about education, about how fast you're growing as a company. What's Mistral AI's next ambitions for the world?
Well, I would like to probably to talk about what AI is going to become in the coming years, and we'll be contributing to it, but it's great to see a lot of competition in that space. We are going to move toward AI that learns from you and AI that learns about you. When I say AI that learns from you, we're reaching a point where we are done compressing the human knowledge into AI systems. So they know everything about history, about geography, about everything that has happened in the world. But it's not enough. They know everything about what's available on the web, basically. And at some point, you need to get more expertise in specific fields. And that's where our partnerships with enterprises are a way for specializing the AI into specific systems. And the way to get that expertise is to ask the humans that are working to provide that expertise to AI systems. So they should behave, and they will behave more and more as teachers to AI systems that will make them gain time. So that's the learn from you. And so we're going to be teachers of AI, and that's going to enable the technology to accelerate. I think the other thing is that it will learn about you. As we go forward, systems will be more and more personalized. They will know about your tastes. They will know about how you prefer to work, and they will be more satisfying for you to interact with. So that's the two aspects that are going to grow in the coming years and that are pretty exciting.
That's pretty cool. And how is going to Mistral play in that game?
So we're investing a lot in that domain. We're investing in verticalizing our solutions with various enterprises in manufacturing, in financial services, in the administration. So that's a lot of work for us. And on the learn about you, we'll soon be introducing features that I think you will be finding satisfactory.
Cool. Can't wait to test them. Okay, Arthur, before we're up, there's one question I needed to ask you. You know your friend Sam, he was here on stage earlier, and I asked Le Chat to ask him a question. So now I've asked ChatGPT to ask you a question. And the question was, it's supposed to be a funny question. Oh, wait, before I give you the question, I have to notice something. When you ask Le Chat to ask a question to Sam, Le Chat is very polite. He says, oh, that's a great opportunity. You're going to interview Sam on stage. When you ask ChatGPT, none of that. That's French style, I think.
Indeed.
So coming back to the question, if Mistral was to create a new model named after an historical figure, who would that be and why?
I would say probably Cleopatra, maybe.
Ooh, Cleopatra. Tell me more about that.
You know, Cleopatra is she's an Egyptian queen, or Greek queen actually, and that made her career in Egypt mostly, and a little bit in Rome. And so Cleopatra actually sounds pretty well. I think it's she's a great woman figure, and AI needs more women, so that's what I can say. That's what I can come up with at least.
Good one. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats to Arthur for all the great work done over the last few weeks. Congrats. Okay. So this is coming to an end. It's such a great pleasure to be here with you tonight. I know you have had a very long day listening to all the most amazing conversations that I've had about AI for quite some time now. But just wanted to give you a few closing remarks. But before I do that, I wanted to thank a few people. I know Roxane is going to do a lot of thank yous, so I'll focus, and I'm sorry for everyone I wanted to thank, but I would not be able to do. First, obviously, Anne Bouvreau and her incredible envoys who's made this summit possible. I think she deserves an amazing round of applause, including the 5 people who've made that possible and all the team behind the summit. I don't know if she's here, but she's definitely made it happen. And second, I know it's not very protocol friendly, but I wanted to thank my team because all the work you always see, like us speaking in front of you, doing all those amazing things, we can never do that without the team. And I know like they're always in the background, and I know they've had very, very long nights of work. Some haven't slept for quite a while, so please don't give them drinks tonight, otherwise they will just like crash. But this has been an immense privilege to work with you, team. And I think everyone needs to applaud you for what you've made. Thank you. Coming back to the conclusion, so where are we? We just had an amazing 6 days of summit, 6 days, because when we started this whole thing, it was just 2 days, but we thought, okay, that's not enough, let's add more. We started with scientific days in Saclay. I don't know if a few of you have been able to go there, but it was amazing. We had scientists from all over the world. Michael Jordan gave an amazing speech about how AI is developing. It was intense 2 days of having top scientists discussing how science is shaping AI. Second, we had a cultural weekend, was pretty fun. We saw how AI is shaping culture, how there are a lot of discussions going on AI and art, and how AI can be a tool for artists to develop new technologies, new art based on this technology. Third, the summit itself. 2 days in Grand Palais, obviously amazing lineup of people from all around the world, 40 heads of states, scientists, entrepreneurs, people you've seen on that stage who have made conversation on AI and how we want to advance this technology. And this is very unique, having so many countries talking about AI, and it happened here in Paris. And last but not least, this, the business days. Amazing congratulations to everyone who's made it possible. It's only been a day. Maybe next time we need to do 2 days because it has been truly awesome. But seeing how the entire French ecosystem is coming together to make this technology possible, to build those amazing things you're building, having people like all the people who were on stage the whole day here in Station F, which is always a place where we innovate, has been an immense pleasure and a real sense of pride. So there's no better way we could have closed this event. What do I get from the summit? And probably what I hope you get as well. First, France. France is in the game. There is no better time. I think Sam, Lisa, Arthur, everyone said it. There is no better time if you're an AI founder to start a company. And there's no better place to start it either. We are definitely committed to make France a big AI nation. And I think our president has been really clear on how we're making this happen. 109 billion euros of investment for infrastructure. Our PM also gathered everyone, all the ministries last week at the beginning of this event to say, how do we accelerate? How do we make sure we use AI in all ministries? How do we make sure we put AI in the hands of 5.7 million public servants? That is how committed we are, and you can count on us because we really want to be and accelerate in that race. 2, Europe. Arthur, I'm glad you mentioned Europe, and I'm glad you mentioned you were positively surprised about Europe. Europe can innovate. Europe is innovating. Europe is also definitely back in the game. Ursula von der Leyen was here this morning, and she talked about 3 things. She talked about investing in infrastructure, making sure we have all the compute we need for this technology to flourish here in Europe. She talked about financing and how we're going to commit 200 billion euros as Europe, as a continent, to AI. And she talked about cutting red tape. Yeah, we need to look at that as well. We hear you. I've been one of you before. I've started companies and tried to develop those companies. We know how sometimes our regulation can slow us down, and we'll look at that. We have to do it. But let's not mix up everything. Regulation is not bad per se. So don't fall into that trap thinking, oh, Europe only regulates. That's just not true. We have ways to ensure trust, and we make sure that the way we do it is as simple as possible for your companies. You can count on us for that. 3, the world. The world was in Paris. I mean, more than 40 countries were here to talk about AI because we're credible in this technology, but because we have a vision. And our vision, I think the president stated it very clearly for those who were here, is that AI is so transformative that there is no way that we can leave the development of this technology in the hands of only a handful of companies. It's not going to happen. That's not how we see it. We need, as a world, to think through how do we make it more ethical? How do we make it more sustainable? There were very strong commitment on that front. How do we fight against the biases that I've heard talk about so much? And how do we make sure that everyone can benefit this technology? Everyone in this country, that's what we're very committed to do, trying to make sure we leave no one behind, but also everyone all around the world, the global south, all the countries that needs to get the progress coming from this technology and needs to get it from an equal manner. And this is where I turn to you. I know sometimes you're wondering, oh, isn't it this country more attractive? Shouldn't I do that differently? Do I really have the ambition to go and build this huge company? We need you. We need you more than ever because this technology is so transformative. Europe has a vision that we need to protect, and France relies on you to build those companies here. Because it's not just a question of economic opportunities, it's not just a question of productivity, it's a question of how we see the world. And I believe altogether we can build technologies that goes along with this vision we have of the world. A world that is safe, a world that is prosperous, a world that is inclusive, and a world that relies on you, entrepreneurs. So thank you for being with us, and welcome to have a few chats and drinks, I think, later. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everyone. You guys stood for a very long time. So I'm going to let you have 1 hour. Go get a pizza, La Felicita. You can use the code AI15 and come back at 8 because we're going to open the doors for our party with OpenAI, Hugging Face, H Company, supported by AMD and SAP. I also want to thank everybody who made the business day possible. I can't believe you guys are still standing, by the way. But I really want to thank all of our partners who made this day possible. It was a joint event, a collaborative event with some key organizations from the ecosystem, including Numéum, BPI France, CNF, France Digital, and of course, La French Tech. So thank you guys. Yes, thank you to the teams. I have to say what Clara said is totally true. There are so many people behind what you guys saw, so many people that made the summit happen, that worked in the different ministries as well. So huge congrats. Now we are going to vacate the space. So like I said, grab a pizza, come back, and we'll see you in 1 hour. Thanks.